everybody, welcome back to the WTF1 podcast. We are here, yes, we are here for not only our own 2021 predictions, but some of your very bold statements as well. And it's not just me to go and dive through all of these. It's, of course, Tom Bellingham and Katy Fairman, two just wonderful human beings. Actually, in fact, I think you're both going on Britain's Got Talent. What was your thing that you're going to do as a duo?
Knife throwing.
Yeah.
Oh, is Tommy going to be the one?
Yeah, Katy throws knives at me. I'm the glamorous assistant.
For people wondering, I literally just threw that question out of the blue. They did not know it was coming, and Tommy, you could just tell, was just started to whir his brain like, But knife throwing was very good, Katy. And in fact, Katy, we're going to go straight to your bold prediction. So we're going to go through one prediction from us each, and then just roll with it from there. So, Katy, take it away.
So my 2021 prediction is that Esteban Ocon is going to beat Fernando Alonso, his brand new teammate at Alpine.
Hello.
I know.
Spicy.
Little bit of spice early on.
Why do you think that?
So I know Fernando Alonso is a two-time world champion, often hailed as one of the greatest drivers of this generation of F1. But, and I'm not being ageist here, because there are other teammate pairings on the grid like Hamilton and Bottas. Hamilton is the older one and he's still absolutely dominating things. But I just feel that he's not been in F1 for a couple of years and he's just not going to have that edge. Esteban last year, he didn't have the greatest of seasons. I mean, he was partnered with Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel, form of his life, he's doing a stellar job. But I don't know, I just have this gut feeling that Esteban Ocon is just going to bring it and absolutely wipe the floor with Alonso. So
would it be? I guess the question there though is, would it be Ocon bringing it, or will it be Alonso not bringing it? Because I feel like it would be more Fernando, as you say, being older and not exactly at the prime. And he's kind of himself said in interviews, I'm not going to be there from round one. I'm going to take a bit of time to get my feet back into this. But I think it's probably more Alonso not bringing it than Ocon bringing it. Would you say, Katy? Or
I think so. I mean, Fernando Alonso, as great as a driver he is, he does have a real arrogance about him, I find. And I think that's probably going to come into play in the season. I think he'll probably rock up, although he might not be on it winning the first race of the season, for example. I think he's probably going to be in for quite a shock. Although the Renault looked to be improving last year, now it'll be Alpine. I just feel that Ocon, he's been there a bit longer. He knows the team better, and he's just going to use everything to his advantage and beat Alonso.
I'm surprised that Alonso hasn't been able to bring back private testing. I mean, he was able to do young driver testing, so I'm surprised he wasn't able to find a loophole to get 1,000 miles in the current gen car. But I agree. I think Alonso will get beaten at least by Ocon at the start of the season. I think it will take a while for Fernando to get up to speed. I mean, you kind of have to compare it a little bit to Michael Schumacher in some ways and him coming back to the sport, although you could argue the cars were a lot more different for Schumi than they will be for Alonso. But there's still that time. You do get rusty. I mean, Stroll said he got rusty after missing one race with COVID, didn't he?
Interestingly, Ocon himself mentioned that because he was probably the biggest disappointment last year for a lot of people. He was so highly rated, and he missed one season, came back, and then now everyone started to question whether he was all that. And he himself said missing a year is tough, like not racing for a whole year.
And especially when you're old, like Fernando, things don't click as quick, at least not naturally, and they shouldn't. But then this is Fernando Alonso. I don't feel like we should write him off completely.
I'm not.
There is definitely a chance that he could come out the blocks firing, but I still think it will take him a few rounds to pick up.
I don't. I think Alonso is going to...
Straight out the blocks?
Yeah. Maybe,
round one, Alonso will trash Ocon.
I think Alonso will out-qualify Ocon a lot and will be beating him from the start. I know that might even be a bolder prediction, but... it's just Fernando Alonso.
That's not your prediction, is it?
No, but it's just Fernando Alonso, isn't it? He's just one of those drivers that, for me, the most interesting sort of narrative about Alpine and Renault is if, like Katy mentioned earlier, Renault seemed to have really sort of picked up the pace and finally getting somewhere. If they drop back again, it's not going to do great for the Alonso narrative, is it? That he sort of comes in and teams can't work with him and the performance goes backwards a little bit. But he's one of those drivers that seems to just be able to get the best out of any car, no matter how useless it is. And I would be surprised if Ocon beats Alonso, but that's not to say it's impossible, because missing a couple. Was it 2018 he retired? I'm trying to remember now. End of 2018. So yeah, it has been a long time. It's not just a year like Ocon, but this is Fernando Alonso. I still just think he'll come back and be on it.
Interesting.
Okay, Tommy, I have a proposition for you, a little bet. If Fernando Alonso,
Here we go.
if Esteban Ocon beats Fernando Alonso when it's Christmas drinks, because the season's going to finish closer and closer to Christmas, when it's Christmas drinks with WTF1 team, I will buy the first round of drinks. If Fernando Alonso wins beats Ocon in the Drivers' Championship, you will buy the first round of drinks.
Fair.
Deal?
To be fair, but first round of drinks.
Yeah, I was
Everybody
going to
does
say
a round. This needs to be an extra round, doesn't it? This
Okay,
needs to be
extra
out
round.
It
of
needs
your
to
own
be
pocket.
like eating a
And this is middle of London.
chili or something.
I'm talking double this, double that. Let's get the 10, 15 quid drinks out here.
Katy
Okay.
has to shout "Sorry, Fernando" in the middle of Oxford.
Okay, deal. Done.
Oh my God, yes.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
Okay, no, and then Tommy, you have to do sorry Ocon.
Okay, yeah.
So one of you has to shout in the middle of London, sorry Ocon or sorry Alonso. Yes. Oh my God.
There we go.
Virtual handshake through the camera.
That's amazing. And I'm just sat here just not shouting in London for once,
Yeah,
which is
good
brilliant.
times.
But I will still take the drink if that's still going. Okay, cool. Right, so that one provided some spicy debate, and we've managed to somehow secure one of you screaming in London, which is brilliant. And by the way, I will be the judge for that. So if you don't do enough decibels, then in fact you'll have to do it again. So
Oh God.
there you go. Well, Tommy is now fully regretting that. But okay, let's get on to my prediction. And I believe that McLaren will be the second fastest car. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bold.
It's bold. It's extreme. It might not come true. Maybe there's a bit of hoping that we get someone else near the front. But I feel like if there is a team, it will be McLaren, just purely from the Mercedes partnership that they now have. You know, Lando said that it would have been pole his lap around Abu Dhabi and things like that. So for me, I think McLaren, you know, they've been taking steps forward every single season recently. And I think they'll continue to do that. And with the fact that they've got Ricciardo and Norris as well, I think that'll be a really good combination where, to be fair, Lando has to match Daniel Ricciardo really if he wants to continue his good form in Formula One so far. He's got a couple of years under his belt now, so I feel like Lando has to be on the level of Daniel if he wants to truly stake his claim at a world championship, especially with Daniel coming into the team. And if the car is there and they start to, you know, be on the podium more, potentially win a race, then Lando needs to stake that claim within the team, in my opinion.
I cannot see this personally. I think, yeah, for me, McLaren, I've seen a lot of people actually predicting that McLaren are going to do extremely well. Some people saying that Ricciardo and Lando might even win races. And I know they're going to Mercedes engines next year, this year, as it was now. I just can't see there being that much of a performance sort of jump up just from the Mercedes engine. If anything, I feel like it might take them a while to get up to speed with a new engine. Things didn't go particularly great when they had a new engine last time, when Honda got in, and then even when Renault joined, they didn't particularly jump up the grid immediately. So it's one of those things where I personally can't see McLaren making that much of a big step forward, because the rules aren't changing a huge amount this year. It's just, I guess this all relies on Red Bull being shocking, I guess.
Well, yeah, McLaren fans, if you're listening, don't listen to Tommy. He just wants to put a dampener on your hopes and dreams, to be honest. But now, look, you wanted a bold claim. You wanted a bold statement. I gave you one.
Yeah,
give me a bold prediction for the next season. Oh, no, I can't see that. It's ridiculous, Matt. You're disgusting.
Well, that's the point.
I'm joking.
It's meant to be a bold prediction, and we're meant to disagree and say it's absolutely rubbish.
Absolutely. And we always disagree, don't we, Tommy? But yeah, no, I can see that, there could be teething issues, but, McLaren have worked with Mercedes in the past, and I'm sure that it'll maybe be a bit more of a seamless operation this time round. But yeah, I think it would rely on Red Bull maybe just completely sacking off this year and putting development into next year. That's another thing that I've raised before, maybe in podcasts, I can't remember, but where there might be a few teams that have just absolutely sent it into 2021 in terms of development, just to hope to get a really good year where everyone else may have turned their attention to 2022 and the new regs. But that could easily be a factor, in my opinion. But
that's true.
We'll see in Lights Out in Bahrain, won't we, Katie?
We will, yeah. I think I'm gonna side more with Tommy on this one.
Oh, come on! McLaren fans,
do...
I hope you're in the comments right now backing me up at least to say, look, Matt, that was a nice prediction. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see McLaren do well. In fact, I'm quite worried during this podcast that my doorbell's going to go because I've ordered some McLaren merch, some new Danny Rick McLaren merch. So,
wow.
I'm hoping McLaren are going to do well this year. But I do worry that with the new Mercedes engine, although it seems like a dream combination, McLaren and Mercedes are back. And like you say, they've worked with each other before. And the Mercedes power unit is undoubtedly like the best that there is in F1 at the moment. We've seen in the past when they've had the Honda engine, I mean, look how well that turned out, not. And with the Renault engine, there was some slow progress, but progress nonetheless. And in 2020, McLaren had such a successful year, in terms of how they've done the previous years with that Renault engine, that I began to wonder, have they made the right decision? Should they have just stuck with Renault for a couple more years? But I think with Red Bull and the driver duo that they have now with Verstappen and Perez, I can't see this one happening, but I think they'll probably hang on to third again.
Okay, third fastest car. I'll accept that. Look, okay, it was a bold statement. I'm going to back it with every fibre of my being until it's wrong.
Remember, I mean, last year, I remember, to be fair, saying, do you remember when there were the rumours that Ferrari weren't up there? And I think both of us said there's absolutely no way that Ferrari are going to be... It was that... No one could break into that top pack, could they? It was always Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari. And then Ferrari got beaten by Racing Point and everything and McLaren. So you never know. It's going to be interesting next year because of the like you say, the fact that some teams might push a lot this year to say, well, this is our chance while everyone's backed off a bit, to really catch up, and then others might just sack it off and just say, well, next year the big rule changes, that's what we need to be there for. So you never know, could get a bit of a mix up.
Yeah, hopefully. And I think McLaren will at least, because I think Racing Point over the course of the season had the fastest car in 2020. But yeah, I think McLaren might be able to close that gap over true performance, but I think McLaren definitely performed better in the races. I know obviously Perez got a win and things like that, but overall consistency wise, I think McLaren were a bit better. Senna K17 says, I truly believe with all my being that McLaren will win a race this year, and if they don't, I will buy every t-shirt in the WTF1 store.
I've bookmarked that one.
Is Senna K17 a burner account for you, Tommy? Is this just a plug for the
No,
it
genuinely wasn't. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's a nice little merchandise plug, I'll include that one.
Love that.
What I want is when McLaren do win a race, I want the when people do that challenge where they wear as many t-shirts as possible, I want a picture of Senna K17 in like loads and loads of t-shirts.
How many t-shirts are there on the store?
I don't know, a lot.
They bulked out like the Michelin
15,
Man.
20?
Yeah, that's what I mean, where they're absolutely bulked in t-shirts. That's what I want to see.
Senna, you might end up regretting that, but we'll see. Actually, you would never regret it. It's a t-shirt from the WTF1 store. Fantastic quality, great prices. Moving on. Right. Tommy.
Mine is Yuki Tsunoda will beat Pierre Gasly, which is bold because we did...
bolder than mine.
Yeah, we did a... I'm just looking now at a poll we did where we did teammate battles, and I did the two drivers, and the highest percentage of who will beat who other than George Russell beating Nicholas Latifi was Pierre Gasly beating Yuki Tsunoda. He got 95% of the vote, which was more than people thinking that Lewis Hamilton would beat Bottas, which says a lot. But I think that Gasly no doubt had an unbelievable season, but he started to drop off a little bit towards the end of the year. Not a huge amount, but Kvyat started to sort of put in a few better performances. And I think with Tsunoda coming in, and he's just going to be like so desperate to impress at AlphaTauri, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he does beat him and does a lot better than people think, because I think a lot of people think he's just going to be nowhere compared to Gasly. But I don't think it's impossible that Tsunoda's going to beat Gasly next year. I think people would be presently surprised, and this is probably going to age very badly, and he's going to not get a single point, and then everyone's going to clip this.
Yeah, in fact, what I'm going to put on the line here is that if Tsunoda does beat Gasly over the course of the season, I will shout Tsunoda in London.
Okay.
Because I am so unbelievably confident that Tsunoda is not going to beat Gasly over the course of the season.
It's a lot of
as much as he wants to impress and work towards it, there's always teething, especially with these cars. Going from Formula 2 to these cars, there's a huge amount of learning to do, and to get the last few tenths to a teammate we've seen is so difficult. And I think Gasly is fair enough. Yeah, he did drop off a little bit, but I think testament to Kvyat as well for some great performances.
Yeah.
So I feel like Kvyat, maybe almost with no pressure on his shoulders, actually was delivering better towards the end of the season. But for me, I think Gasly will pretty much trounce Tsunoda over the course of the first season of Yuki being in Formula 1. But hey, that's not what I'm putting on the line. Gasly just needs to beat Tsunoda over the course of a season, and then I won't be shouting in London. But so Tommy, are you willing to put sorry Gasly into your shout out as well?
Well, no, because that's just my. I'm just doing the Ocon one. We've all got a shout each.
Okay,
now.
you're doing the big one. Okay, the big bold statement.
Go on, Katy. Are you Gasly or?
So I am Gasly. That I think Gasly will beat.
You're
Tsunoda.
Gasly.
Pierre.
Yeah,
welcome.
I think
Pierre.
Gasly will beat him. Yeah.
Joking that you said I'm
Oh,
Gasly. Anyway,
sorry.
pennies drop,
I got
pennies
so
drop.
panicked then. I was like, oh gosh, is that really controversial? No, I think Gasly will beat Tsunoda. I mean, I don't know much about F2 in comparison to you guys. I'm fairly new to it, and you guys are both experts at it. But I know who Tsunoda is, and I know he's a mega talent, and super exciting to see him come into F1. Like, I'm really excited about that, even though he is literally an infant. Wasn't he born in the year 2000 or something like that?
Yeah.
He's a baby.
He was
little
a year old when Alonso and Kimi made their F1 debuts, and he's going to be racing against.
He's an infant. He's 20 years old, and Verstappen walked into F1 at 17. You're like, yeah, no, Tsunoda's an infant.
I think it's more the year. I think it's more the year is just for anyone to be.
Now we're sounding really old.
I know.
Guys. Come on, we are the fresh hip. Wow, I used the word hip.
Back in the day.
We're cool, guys.
How do you do, fellow kids? Anyway, Katy, continue.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that Tsunoda, I'm sure he'll come in with plenty of enthusiasm and wanting to, get on with things straight away. But I feel like Gasly's performance last year, he was one of my drivers of the season in terms of what he managed to achieve in his machinery. And I think he'll just try and dominate, be the number one driver, that alpha male there. And I can see him.
Alpha male at AlphaTauri.
Hey. I'm here all week. But yeah, that's...
Swift Sambi, sorry Katie, says Red Bull driver saga will continue with claims of Perez being replaced mid-season by Tsunoda.
We said that before, didn't we? That
no.
If he does too well, it's a worry for Perez. But no, I don't think.
No, but Perez hasn't even turned a wheel in the Red Bull, already writing him off. Unbelievable things.
Know, ridiculous.
But no, I completely disagree with that one, unfortunately, Swift Sambi. I don't think it's going to be a trio of Red Bull driver sagas. Actually, it's more than that, isn't it? But yeah. I think Tsunoda will get beaten by Gasly, and if anything, if Perez is doing terrible, Gasly will be the one in the rumour mill, in my opinion. Do you guys agree?
I don't think Gasly's ever going back to Red Bull, regardless. I mean,
but in terms of the rumours and the this and that, I don't think he'll ever go. But in terms of Gasly's won another race or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Perez is going to have any issues at Red Bull.
Moving on to the next
take,
point.
Guys.
To be fair, I feel exactly the same. ERL_Vader says Perez will expose Verstappen. he will be right with him and will prove it wasn't worth Red Bull building an entire team around Verstappen. My God, this is the boldest statement of them yet.
Stir that pot.
I'm triggered.
Yeah, poor Verstappen fanboys, including Tommy. You can see Tommy's face going red, even though I can't see Tommy's face right now.
I'm redder than this drink that I'm holding up, which is bright red.
Thank you for audio listeners. The audio listeners will be thanking you, sorry. I don't think he'll expose Verstappen. I think he will maybe expose the fact that the number 2 seat isn't as cursed as people think. Because I feel like as a veteran of the sport, Perez, he has a lot of experience on his shoulders. In my opinion, I feel like he will go in and do a pretty good sort of Mark Webber to Sebastian Vettel job. I think he will be there or thereabouts to Max Verstappen, and he will be that rear gunner that Max has needed. That in my opinion, is what Perez will do. I don't think he'll beat Max. We know that Red Bull is Max Verstappen, but Sergio, I think, will do a much better job than some people are writing him off already. So
yeah, I don't think that. We mentioned in the one before where we mentioned about the new drivers that Perez for me is that perfect, like you say, the Webber to Vettel, where he's got experience, so he doesn't need to be nurtured as much as a young Red Bull junior that's just thrown into a really good car and said, here you go, we're focusing on Verstappen, drive well. Whereas Sergio Perez, he's going to have the experience where he won't need as much hand-holding, I guess, from the team, but can deliver results. And I don't for a minute think he will expose Verstappen. I think he will have a couple of races where he might beat Verstappen on pace, which is something we never saw with Gasly or Albon in that team. But for him to expose Verstappen, I don't agree with, unsurprisingly, to no one.
No, I rank Perez really highly, but I rank Verstappen higher than Perez, I think. If you look at the DNA of Red Bull teams and duos in the past, when they've really struggled and all these rumours have circulated about, the team being solely based around Verstappen and the number 2's not delivering, that number 2 driver has always been rather young and inexperienced. So I think bringing Perez back in, we're going to see similar kind of dynamics when Verstappen was partnered with Ricciardo. Because Perez and Ricciardo, in my opinion, are the same sort of level of racer. But difference with that is that Verstappen has had, a couple of years to really, really cement himself into that team. And yeah, I think Verstappen will come out on top, but I am not doubting for any moment that Perez is really going to show him a tough time.
Interesting stuff. Next up, another bold prediction. 21 LVA_linings says either Seb or Ricciardo will finish above the 2 Red Bulls, as Checo and Max will wipe each other out regularly, pretty much part of the Red Bull DNA, and they both have history pushing wheel-to-wheel racing a bit too far, particularly with their teammates. Well, okay. Okay, all right. So
that's
interesting.
Bold for anyone to have what you'd argue is a midfielder, even though obviously Seb and Ricciardo have both won races.
Vettel, or I don't know why we're calling Seb and
it's just the way they've written. It's just the way they've written it. I'm reading it.
I know.
But yeah, to beat Verstappen in the championship, that is very bold. I think they'll have to have a lot of crashes for that to happen.
Yes, yeah, I completely agree.
Just race in Italy every weekend.
Oh yeah,
and Verstappen won't finish.
Well, you never know. There are already rumours that Mugello might come back again, and things change. So, yeah, if we have 6 races at Italy, then Matt, I think you're going to be right. McLaren will be the second.
What are you going to be shouting in London this time?
I ain't shouting nothing. My predictions are stone cold clean. That's not even a phrase. Right. So yeah, I actually completely disagree. Unless Checo is beating Max and then Max brings out this desperation that we haven't really seen from him. Maybe a little bit with Daniel Ricciardo. Actually, it spilled over in Baku, for example. But I think we won't see that just purely from the fact that Checo won't be there every single weekend up with Max's pace. And the fact that it's Vettel or Ricciardo will finish above the 2 Red Bulls. I don't know why Vettel is in that equation, in my opinion. I don't know.
I think we'll get a moment. There'll definitely be a moment, and where it gets a little bit spicy between the two of them, and everyone, and no doubt including us, will make a massive deal of it, and it would be such a huge
it's our
thing.
job.
Exactly. So it'd be a huge talking point because a lot of people are expecting that moment to arrive, a bit like the Ferraris. So yeah, I don't think they're going to crash every race like this person seems to think.
Katy,
No.
what's your thoughts?
I think I agree with the Checo and Max might wipe each other out. I wouldn't say regularly, but I think we'll see one or two prangs throughout the season. I mean, we've seen it even last year in Portimao when Verstappen and Perez had that collision on the first lap. So they do have experience with taking each other out and also taking their teammates out, or being involved at least in accidents with their teammates, not necessarily putting the blame on them. But in terms of Seb or Ricciardo finishing above the two Red Bulls, I can't see that happening, I'm afraid. I love the thought of it, but...
Well, to be fair, actually, I should be agreeing with that because I said McLaren will be the second fastest car. So I agree that Ricciardo will finish above the two Red Bulls. Well done, 21LV_Lidings. Moving on, another one. And this one, I promise, is not my burner account. George_L64. Vettel won't regain his form like people think he will. And this is coming from a Vettel fan, says George. Look, I'm of that same kind of opinion that Vettel won't be this phoenix from the ashes that everyone, I think, wants to see more than maybe believe. I'm not sure. I can't speak for everybody and every F1 fan, but in my opinion, I think it will take a bit of time for Seb to start to be the champion that we all know and love. We know that he is great in a car that works well for him, but if it's a car that he doesn't like, we've seen it many times at Red Bull when he got beaten by Ricciardo, and we've seen again at Ferrari being beaten by Charles Leclerc. If the car isn't to his liking, he can't get the most out of it. I don't think he's that adaptable driver that will put him in that greatest of all time mix. The season just gone kind of proved that, in my opinion, although a lot of people still believe with the tinfoil hats on that Ferrari were sabotaging, not giving him all the bits and bobs, even though Seb came out and said that it wasn't that and that Charles was doing really well. But maybe that was just PR. Who knows? I won't put my tinfoil hat on right now. But yeah, I don't think that Vettel will be as good as people maybe hope. And I'm sure that I can actually hear the stakes and the weapons outside my house as I speak that.
Yeah, the Seb stands. I personally think that he'll be so much better than he was at Ferrari. I think it's going to be that situation where it might take him a little bit of time to get used to the racing point, or the Aston as it will be. I think he will do really well. I can see him finishing top 6 in the championship. For me, I'm not on the bandwagon as much as some people are. I don't know if you want to read the next comment, but a lot of people seem to think that somehow Aston Martin are going to be like title contenders and win multiple races and stuff, which I cannot see happening at all.
Yeah, Cody08920477 says Vettel will be close to winning the championship.
I mean, the car that Aston Martin have.
Come on, you can't keep calling them Racing Point now.
Yeah, but
don't do a crofty.
Okay,
come on.
But okay, the car that Aston Martin will have, when they were Racing Point, it wasn't, the rules aren't changing that much. Maybe the year after, when you've had a year of Seb helping develop the car and its new regulations. We saw it when the regulations changed before Vettel was on it with Red Bull. Maybe that's the chance, but it would be a miracle if Vettel wins multiple races. I can't see it happening. I think he'll get some podiums, but winning races and even challenging for a championship is just way too much for me.
It's funny, isn't it, how when Seb was so dominant in F1, we were all thinking, oh gosh, somebody please come and do something and challenge him for a championship. And now he's been put in such a bad position with Ferrari. I think I can speak for most F1 fans that there's, even if it's just a tiny little bit inside your heart, you want Sebastian to come back and to do well. And I think with Aston Martin, undoubtedly he'll be in a better position than he was with Ferrari, partly because Ferrari obviously weren't at their best last year, which is sort of the understatement of the century. But I think that Sebastian enjoys working with British-based teams as well. when he was working with Ferrari. Obviously, they're based over in Italy, and when he was with Red Bull, he's said before that he enjoys that sort of British way of life and working from a team that's based in the UK. So I think that will probably help. But yeah, in terms of challenging for a championship, I think that's a little bit delusional. But
Just a bit.
I think just accidentally call all Vettel fans delusional. I'm so sorry. But I think we'll see him on the podium a couple of times maybe. But I don't think he's going to finish top 6 compared to what Tommy said. I think he'll probably be more 8th in the championship, but I'm happy to be proved wrong.
Interesting. I think we will hopefully see quite interesting battles between Vettel and Leclerc, 2 different teams. Let's see if
that'd be
we
good.
can get that wheel-to-wheel action that we saw a few times when they were quick. Angry Dino 2, next prediction. Alfa Romeo make a huge step forward and finish 6th in the standings.
That is bold.
No.
With a Ferrari engine?
That is unbelievably bold. I mean, I'm trying to think of who they'd have
Who would
to
finish behind
Yeah,
them?
Williams.
Yeah.
Yes.
Haas and Williams,
Haas.
fine.
Yeah. So they'd be 8th, and then it would have to be like
AlphaTauri?
AlphaTauri, yeah, and then Ferrari, but then they're not going to beat Ferrari with the same engine. Yeah,
Okay.
okay,
Renault, Alpine.
Alpine.
Yeah, Alpine.
That's bold, very bold.
Yeah. Ambitious.
Disagree. I think that's a blanket statement from all of us there that we don't think that's going to happen. But
And if it
look,
doesn't,
we're not here.
We will go to Italy and we'll shout, "Sorry, Alfa Romeo."
Oh God, don't no, you'll go. You can do that.
Who's paying for flights?
Yeah, unless it's a holiday, I don't mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't worry. Your predictions, we love them. Thank you for
Yeah,
sending them
please.
in.
We wanted bold
Don't listen to Grumpy Tommy, who's just saying that this is rubbish. That's a stupid prediction. It's not. No one is silly. Okay.
It's opinion. We're allowed.
Yeah,
We're allowed to
fine.
disagree.
Right. Next up, Racing 4 Points says Carlos and Charles will collide a couple of times. Bonotto will be mad, and one of the drivers will be sad come the end of the season.
Very poetic.
What on earth is that prediction?
I love that. Just really tickled
Carlos.
me.
So Carlos and Charles will collide a couple of times. Bonotto will be mad, and one of the drivers will be sad.
It's so poetic, isn't it? It's just like
Yeah,
we didn't
I
ask.
don't
We didn't ask for poems, but I appreciate the effort.
I don't even think that they meant to do
No.
it, did they? They just because the first part didn't rhyme. But anyway, Carlos and Charles colliding. Charles, I'm going to call him Charles from now on because I don't feel like he is actually called Charles. That's the thing. Like I think everyone's just called him Charles. When
Why
I hear
don't you
like
ask him?
Lando
Call
and
him
stuff.
right now.
No, I'm filming with my phone. But in terms of the name aside, do you think those two will collide? I think that one could get interesting, especially if Carlos is closer to Leclerc than we actually think. Shut up, Frank.
The door's gone.
Okay, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Frank is Thomas' dog, not his butler. But yeah, I think they could easily collide, and it could get interesting there. It depends how quick Carlos is out the blocks and if he challenges his teammate.
95% sure there'll be some kind of, maybe not a collision, but a little bit.
They're
of
allowed to
wheel
race as well. Bonotto said that,
banging.
didn't he?
There'll be
Bonotto said they're allowed to
some
race.
wheel banging between Carlos and Charles. I think one of the interesting, we mentioned Vettel. It's such an interesting. There's so many interesting narratives this year because the rules are essentially staying the same. We're essentially going to get to see Carlos in Vettel's car, and we'll see.
Very true.
We'll see if Carlos is absolutely dreadful. We're like, well, obviously we know, Carlos is not a rubbish driver. Like, why would he be so far behind? So there's a lot of interesting factors there. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. But I think Carlos and Charles will be quite close. I think Charles will have the edge. Charles, why am I calling him Charles? We mentioned this. But yeah, I think, I would be amazed if they don't have at least one collision.
Yeah, I think we can probably expect there to be a couple of prangs throughout the season. I think Charles will come out on top. I personally think that he is the better driver of the two by just a slight margin. But then Carlos he's jumped from so many teams in the space of 5-6 seasons, that maybe he will be, unlike other drivers that might have switched to Ferrari, he's got experience with constantly changing and adapting to new environments quickly. He might find that the Ferrari way of life is different to what he's experienced in the past, but I don't think that we should discount Carlos straight away. I think that he will, like we've said, it's inevitable that there's going to be some teething issues joining a brand new team and everything like that, but I'd like to think that Carlos and Charles will both be pretty competitive with each other, fairly on in the season.
Interesting stuff. We will see between Carlos and Charles. Robin_F1. Next bold statement. Nico Hülkenberg will make a third comeback and get his podium. Well, obviously the reason that Hülkenberg would be coming back is either due to a driver getting COVID or a driver not being able to race, so I hope that isn't the case. But if Hülkenberg does come back for whatever reason, no, I don't think that's going to happen somehow, unless he gets to drive a Mercedes or a Red Bull. But yeah, I don't personally see that happening. But that's a factor that we can't even measure because it depends on something happening.
There's so many variables, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a lot of variables there. It would be, we hope it doesn't happen, like you say, but COVID seems to be, well, here anyway, worse than it seems to ever be. And we've had obviously a couple of recent examples of Lando and Charles getting it. But yeah, it would rely obviously on a driver getting COVID and then it being one of the top guys, and then Hülkenberg getting into that seat. And you've got to think that probably only Aston Martin would take him on board, because people seem to think last year that Nico, I know it was the meme, but Nico Hülkenberg isn't the contracted COVID driver that gets to drive any car. Do you know what I mean? It was only because Racing Point had a couple of drivers that missed it, and then when the Mercedes seat, when Lewis had COVID, Nico Hülkenberg didn't get that seat despite many people thinking he would. So yeah, there's so many factors there for that to happen. It seems extremely unlikely.
Yeah, it's firstly, obviously I hope that no other driver gets COVID this season. With the new strains, I think it would probably be foolish to say that a driver won't get COVID at some point this season. I think, unfortunately, even with all the safety protocols in place, it seems quite likely. But I'm sure the reason that Hülkenberg was brought in last year as this, mega sub was because the teams weren't really truly prepared for COVID and the results that it could have, and that their drivers could catch it. Hülkenberg was put into that seat with Racing Point because Mercedes should really have been able to hand one of their reserve drivers or whatever to Racing Point, but Esteban Gutierrez, who is one of their reserve drivers, his super license had expired and nobody thought to check, which is a bit weird. And Stoffel van Dorn was racing in Formula E in Berlin, which is why Hülkenberg was brought in. But yeah, unfortunately, I think it's unlikely that Hülkenberg will be making a return. And also, and this is kind of an unpopular opinion, and I would love to see Hülkenberg get a podium, but babes, if he hasn't done it already in the years that he's been in F1, I don't think he's going to do it on a one-off. As much as I would love that to happen, I think it's a little bit of a dream world you're living in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want the big comeback story, don't we?
Yeah,
I
we'd
think
love
a lot
that.
of people wanted to see him get a podium, but as you say, he had many opportunities and he squandered all of them, pretty much. So yeah, what can you do? Yeah, exactly. Moving on, Alex F1 73353879. Lewis doesn't sign a new contact.
I didn't even notice that typo.
Contact lens subscription?
There's a typo. A new contract. George Russell will be the 2021 world champion. No, there is 0% chance, and you can clip this all you like. Lewis is going to be racing this year, 1,000,000%. That's it.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, you'll get a tattoo.
A tattoo now.
This
What is
is
this
taking
video
it
descending
extreme.
into?
I can't believe how many people have jumped on this whole story of Lewis not signing as a way, as this whole thing going from last season where people said, oh, well, they could get him so much cheaper, George Russell, and clearly George Russell did really well, so they don't need Hamilton, which is obviously rubbish. It's weird how many people buy this theory that Hamilton's not in next year. I've seen so many people do it. We did a predictor on Instagram and Twitter as well, and the amount of people that reply and cross out Hamilton's name and put George Russell, like George Russell's gonna, or if you tell people to predict the 2021 title, they're putting George Russell in because they're convinced that George Russell is going to be taking over Hamilton's seat, because, and the reason he's not signing the contract is that it's not going to happen. Like you say, clip it all you like. Mercedes are bantering about it on Twitter because they know Lewis is going to sign.
They wouldn't banter about losing a 7-time world champion.
Exactly. It would be such a serious thing to happen. It's just a contract that they need to get it right, and it's just taking a while. But they wouldn't wait that long if they weren't going to keep Lewis Hamilton. So
No, I think if Lewis showed any signs that he was hesitant in signing a contract, Mercedes would be absolutely bricking it, and they'd have so many things in place to make sure that they weren't left driverless for 2021. Obviously.
Well, yeah,
George
because they've
Russell.
been in that situation before, haven't they? Where Rosberg decided to retire
Yeah.
out of absolutely nowhere, and I'm sure they have put parameters in place now, because obviously they took Bottas on quite late notice. But this would be an absolute barnstormer of a story if Lewis Hamilton decided to retire on 7 world titles.
I just
wouldn't
don't.
make
Yeah,
sense.
it wouldn't make sense. I don't see where it comes from. I know people mention like, oh, well, he's Matt Schumi now and stuff. He's got the next season. He's going to be in the best car. Yes, he's probably pushing his, not luck, but like he's negotiating as much as he can because he knows Mercedes are going to keep him. So he might as well just do it as much as possible. But he's not going to squander the chance to become an 8-time world champion with the best car there ready for him. Do you know what I mean? I just don't get how people can possibly think that Lewis Hamilton isn't going to sign next year. It's mad, baffling to me.
Yeah, well, Toto's signed on for another 3 years as well. So in my opinion, I think he'll sign a 3-year contract, try and make it 10 world titles, and then he will retire. But like you say, it doesn't make much sense. Why would he just say no and not race? He's in the form of his life. He's got a brilliant car. He doesn't have the aspect of a family that he started, that we know of. But somebody like Sebastian Vettel, when he was dropped by Ferrari, there was big rumours that he could retire to spend more time with his 3 kids and his wife. And you hear it from drivers previously, like that's one of the reasons Nico Rosberg said he quit, was because he'd done what he needed to do and he wanted to spend time and watch his 2 girls grow up, which is, fair enough. But most sports people, if they have that, golden opportunity in front of them, they're not just going to be like, nah, you're all right, I'm going to pass, thanks, I'm going to go and work on my vegan burger chain and do Extreme E. They're going to be like, no, I've literally spent my whole life wanting to be
and Hamilton
multiple
shown
world
he can
champion.
do all that stuff literally on the side as an
exactly.
afterthought almost, and make
There's nothing
music
wrong with
and
vegan burger chains or Extreme E.
No, I'm not slating that off at all. But
Go do your vegan burger chains at your Extreme E. I love it.
It's true though. He's doing all this stuff like
he'll do that
on the
later.
side, and also he's still doing it. People love
now.
to, even in 2017 when you can argue the Mercedes wasn't as far ahead and it looked like Vettel might nick the title that year. There was all the stories of, oh, he's too busy focusing on his fashion things and stuff like that, and he goes and wins a title. So he can do it. It's fine. He will be racing and he will be world champion.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
That's probably the least bold prediction we've had of
Yeah.
the entire episode, right? Right, that's it. We're done. That's it. Well, what we're going to do now is head over to Tommy for final thoughts. Tommy?
No, my connection's failed.
I literally
Error.
thought the connection had gone.
I don't have
No
any.
final
No, I
thoughts?
don't have any. Head
Okay,
empty.
Katie.
My final thoughts is that I really enjoyed recording this, and maybe at some point, maybe mid-season or something like that, we should do another one where we get people's opinions of the season and talk through them and add in our own spicy takes. But I could be the only
We
one.
just
You
keep
guys might
doing.
have hated doing
Yeah,
this.
we just keep doing them until we just do a world
out.
tour of shouting drivers' names around the country.
Yeah.
Amazing. Love that. And I also love that Tommy didn't have any final thoughts. That makes me very
Silence.
happy
He's going on strike.
You
Right.
did me. You
I've broken
Yeah,
you.
you did
I've
it. You
finally
did it at
broken
the
you.
start, and that used all my brain capacity. I can't do it again.
I love it. Right. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and listening. Use the hashtag WTF1 podcast if you want to get involved. Of course, we post all the questions if you want to get involved in the podcast on our social medias. So you can reply there and potentially you'll be featured in the next podcast. So that's it. Thank you so much for everything, and give us a 5 stars or a thumbs up because we deserve nothing less. And that's it. Thank you to Katie. Thank you to Tommy. And thank you to you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye bye bye
Bye. 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 Bye.